Thank you very much, Yoko, and hello everyone. It's very nice to be here. I'm a network scientist, so I study many different types of networks actually. But today I will talk about social networks, something that is close to all of us. So social networks are very important. They are kind of like behind many of the grand challenges we face today as humans, like epidemics, fake news, and climate opinions about climate change and so on. So these are topics, that people not only from social science needs to study. It is a very broad and interdisciplinary field to study social networks, and you also have to we have to study them in many different ways. And today I will showcase three of our research projects that takes a different approaches to study social networks. First, a project that studies social networks in the wild as they happen between people. We can also study networks in the lab. So I will tell you a little bit about that. And finally, about the projects that is much more mathematical or computational, theoretical, that studies social network in a theoretical way. So first, network science is, in a way, data science. It's a way to find structure in large data set. And the way that works, the methodology, I want to illustrate by this elephant picture. Maybe some of you have seen it. It's originally a picture from India. It tells about some concepts about Buddhism. But the thing I want to say here is that if you want to understand a big complex system, like an elephant, you cannot look too close. You have to kind of step back and look from a distance. And networks are a way to do that. So it's a way to kind of systematically simplify a complex system. But we're not interested in elephants, we're interested in social systems. So the way network science does that is like a four-step procedure. First, we have to kind of identify some kind of social context. Then we have to gather information about who interacts with whom, to construct the network, to get the network data. And then we have to measure something. It could be the number of triangles, and 4 in this case. But then comes the big challenge. So it's to interpret this number 4. What does it mean? Is it a lot or little? This is really where network science lies. And if it's a lot, then we can draw the conclusion that there is a tendency for triangles to form. And then maybe go on to study what does it mean that there are many triangles in a social network? How does it affect disease spreading or rumor spreading and so on? So as Yoko mentioned, one of my contributions has been to introduce time into network modeling. So many times we know not only who interacts with whom, but also when these interactions happens. So another cartoon to explain this for you. And my favorite system to think about is the human proximity, who is close to whom at what time. So in this cartoon, we can see this girl going around in her everyday life, meeting different people at different times. So this highlights these two aspects of human proximity. There is a network aspect of this binary interaction between people, and there is a time aspect. And that could be like structure or regularities in both network and time that affects disease spreading, and that we can also use to say something about how people organize their lives and how society is organized. So I will show you, this is a visualization of a real temporal network data by our colleagues in France. It shows school kids between age 9 and 12. So you can see each blob here is a class, and right now most of them are in their classrooms. You will see in a while that they will kind of gather up and go together to have lunch, and so that will happen in a few seconds. But the main message here is that even though this is a very kind of simple data set where they put this kind of sensors on kids and that register when they are kind of interacting with each other. You can see now they are going to, gathering to go to lunch. There is a whole story in this data set. And like extracting this story from this type of data set is part of what we do. Now they separate into two rooms. So they have lunch into different rooms, or maybe it's like two big tables. But anyway. But actually this the network itself is usually not what we are really interested in. We want to understand typically some kind of dynamical system or some dynamics on the network, and network epidemiology, how infectious disease spread, is one thing we do. So we heard in the previous talk about like how to model disease spreading by compartmental models. We divide a population into different classes with respect to the disease. They could be susceptible and infectious. And then we assign these transition rules between the classes. So if susceptible meets infectious, the susceptible can become infectious. And then given some time, she could be susceptible again or recovered. This defines the two canonical compartmental models. But as I see it, this is just the beginning. Then we have to know also how people interact, how they meet with each other. And that's where I also think temporal networks is very important. So just to show you, this is our kind of very first study, that kind of led us in this direction of studying temporal networks, where we used a data set from about prostitution that we published in 2010. So the first paper was more about the economics of it, but in a follow-up paper we studied disease spreading on this data set of sexual contacts. And what we see in this graph is like a worst-case scenario, how disease can take off and spread in this population. But we want to understand, like, what is the effect of the temporal order? What is the effect of the order of these contacts? So what we did to do that is that we take this kind of list of contacts where person I has contact with person J at time t, and then just randomly shuffle the timestamps. We keep everything else the same, but we randomize the timestamp, and thereby we kind of destroy the structure in the order of time. And what we found is that then the disease spreads a bit slower, meaning that there is something in the order of event that speeds up disease spreading. So this maybe doesn't look very impressive, but it was the starting point, and we went on to see that sometimes this effect can be very large, and we can actually use it to design vaccination protocols and similar more useful things. But now on to something very different. So we also study social networks in the lab. So this is more in the style of like decision theorists and behavioral economics. So there is this, probably many of you have heard of it, the prisoner's dilemma, which is kind of like a metaphor for decisions you have to make, where you have a choice between kind of establishing a long-term partnership that could be beneficial in the long run, or kind of get some quick gains. So normally, these players in the experiments, they have to interact in a pre-designed way. But what we let them choose whether to interact or not, and thus creating a social network model. And we let 50 people play on 50 rounds, and it could look something like this. This is a visualization of this game theoretical lab experiment, where whenever you see like a line shooting out, it's kind of one person kind of bidding to interact with another. And if they do, that becomes like a black line. The size of the nodes is the accumulated profit, like how well they're doing. The color shows the propensity to collaborating. So the blue ones, they are more likely, they like to collaborate more than the red ones. But interestingly, we see some well-known social structure, this kind of cohesive groups that you can see. This is something that is well-known from social science that kind of emerges from this game dynamics for no particular reason. This is actually work in progress, so we'll see where it leads. But yeah, so okay. Now I want to go to a third example of how we study social network, and this is more theoretical way, using a kind of statistical physics style model of evolution, the co-evolution of networks and opinions. So it combines two ingredients, two well-studied mechanisms. One is social influence, the fact that we can kind of like get the opinions of our neighbors. We can be infected with what they think. And another one is called homophily. It means that when we grow our social network, we are more likely to be friends with the people that have the same opinions. So in our model, if you look to the left, in the center node, there is a tension because the center node has the orange opinion, but has a link, this thick link to a purple opinion. So social influence kind of alleviates this tension by copying the opinion. For the homophily dynamics, it also works to kind of alleviate the tension by disconnecting to the purple node and reconnecting it to the orange one. In our study, we was the first one to kind of combine these two dynamics into a combined kind of model of network evolution and opinion spreading. It works like you pick links at random between people of different opinion. Then with some probability, you take the social influence step and copy an opinion, or you take the homophily step and rewire the link to another neighbor. So what happens in the extreme cases when you have all homophily or all influence, it's kind of clear that if you only have homophily, what happens, look to the left, is that the network kind of rewires such that the original groups of different opinions are kind of isolated clusters, and we have opinions of relatively similar sizes. In the other case, in the social influence, when everything is social influence, then opinions keeps being copied around until eventually this kind of large connected component has just one opinion. And we will have some kind of consensus state eventually with one dominating opinion. Now the contribution of our paper is like what happens in between, because there are a few different things that could happen. One is that we go kind of continuously from the left picture to the right picture, but what happens is actually something more spectacular. It's like a phase transition in physics that up to a certain point in this p parameter, there are the opinions of similar sizes. Then at this very sharp threshold, we get to this consensus state. So I hope you got some overview of social network and what I do. So thank you very much.